Hey guys, girls, and my NB homies. I can't believe no one's noticed yet, but you can call me Church. Welcome to Church on Monday, the podcast where I talk at you about shit I like. This week is a bit unique for me. You see, I am actually in full-on quarantine right now because a little while ago I was exposed to someone who ended up testing positive for the C word. And so I've been in lockdown for about a week now, which is great fucking fun. You know, I'm used to being in healthcare, so I'm used to being an essential employee, always working. And I've actually not been able to go out and shop around at the liquor store, so no new drink of the week this week. It's actually just concentrated caffeine again between puffs of cigarettes. Stimulants. Great for the anxiety. Massive consumption of stimulants is actually very bad for your anxiety and heart health. Don't listen to this stupid fucker. Anyway, to get past this moment of anxiety and depression that I'm going through in my true lockdown, I decided it would be best to analyze a story about the depths of human selfishness and depravity. I am, of course, talking about Heart of Darkness, the novella by Joseph Conrad, and I'm not going to do a full-on breakdown of the book or an analysis of the themes chapter by chapter and shit like that. I'm actually just going to talk about some adaptations that I've watched of it. One, very disappointing. One, fucking dope. And one that's just a straight up fucking classic for good goddamn reason. But let's start with a little overview so we're all on the same page. I'm mostly assuming that you've read this story before. I think it's essential reading in high school. I don't fucking know. I read it on my own, so I'm not really sure, but I'm sure you all have at least a vague idea, you know. It's about this guy Marlowe telling the story of how he went into the Congo to find and retrieve this man Kurtz, who was known to get resources really well out of the Congo, but he ended up going fucking crazy and basically starting his own cult commune within the Congo. And, you know, the classic line from it is, the horror, which are Kurtz's dying words. But within the framing device, Marlowe is actually going to meet with the late Kurtz's widow, and he ends up telling her that Kurtz's last words were her name. So a baseline reading of this gives you the idea that it's about the internal darkness of man, you know, how we're all on the edge of going primal, but really any analysis further reveals that it's a critique of colonial capitalism, you know, the seizing of lands and the acquisition of wealth based off of other people, and how that is the heart of all this darkness in the world. And so it's actually quite appropriate that the two successful adaptations that I'm talking about here are about American exceptionalism and the US's war endeavors to increase their own global capital, a la the Vietnam War or a fictional story in Dubai. And the least successful, which is the first one I'm going to talk about, is actually about how humanity is projecting its own problems onto the universe, and when it's silent in return, we either get caught up in the madness or resolve it in ourselves. And that adaptation is Ad Astra, a very disappointing sci-fi film from 2019 starring Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. And I'm just gonna fucking rant for a second, because this movie has fucking everything going for it. It has great actors, and they play well, but they're given a script where these characters are just fucking flat and boring and have nothing real to say. And the visuals are fucking awesome. The world building is really cool. And the tension is actually very good in most parts. All three of these adaptations hit the major beats of Heart of Darkness and the major tension points. But in this one, they are very... Actually, fuck it. In all of them, they're very well done. But the stakes in this one are... frustrating. Brad Pitt is trying to find his father at the edge of the solar system. See, he was on this expedition to go out to the edge of the solar system and send out signals trying to find interstellar life, extraterrestrial life, out in the stars. And it's interesting because this one kind of has the framing device that's abandoned by all the other adaptations, because it's kind of through the perspective of Brad Pitt checking in with this psychology bot that's on each ship to make sure the emotional state of the crew is in line. And then he also does eventually return to Earth and talk about his experience and bring the revelations that he got through it back to Earth. But it's really all fucking wasted because it's bland. It has a lot of imagination in the visuals, but very little in terms of the narrative, and it just doesn't do anything with it. So that was Ad Astra and why you shouldn't fucking bother with it. But the next one is far more interesting. You see, it takes this journey of madness and puts it in the consumer's hands. It's a game called Spec Ops: The Line, and massive spoilers for all of these, obviously, but this is one that really hit me because I bought it just kind of expecting another Gears of War third-person shooter, which is exactly how it sells itself and what they want you to think going into it, because it just fucks with you. It's really effective. It hits all those beats. It's got the crazy apostle. It's got getting the crew killed because of laying the power and future in one man's hands. And it's got a really cool twist ending. It turns out that Conrad, the previous military captain, I think, who led the 41st into Dubai during this massive sandstorm and actually just kind of took over the city and stayed there, exactly like Kurtz, basically, was actually dead the entire time your team was in the city. And the player character was the one calling all the shots and basically moving up into Conrad's place as the de facto leader of this whole operation in Dubai. And you do get a choice in the end to either kill yourself or kill your idea of Conrad and become him, basically. And then there are choices after that, and it's cool, but that's not important to the adaptation aspect. You see, I find this an interesting adaptation because it actually puts you in Marlowe's shoes. It lets you understand how madness is in the observation of the thing, and it's kind of explaining Kurtz's monologue to you about how he's just doing what he's supposed to do to its fullest extent. You know, it's, again, an example of how colonialism or militaristic capitalism is an inherently dark and selfish endeavor that asks people to be their worst selves. And I think it's really effective in this, and the way they explain the twist is really good, and the little game mechanics that really exemplify and hit at the themes and the actual story that's going on are really fucking cool. I'm sure there are a million fucking video essays on this game. Go play the fucking game first and then consume all the fucking media around it, because it is a really fascinating thing to go through. So that was the line, Spec Ops, obviously. Now we get to the ultimate adaptation of Heart of Darkness, one that is held up as a pinnacle of cinematic storytelling and the absolute peak of a man's career. In scholarly and my personal opinion, these are all fucking true. Apocalypse Now is a goddamn masterpiece. It's definitely my favorite Francis Ford Coppola film, better than The Godfather 2, and it's my favorite Marlon Brando role ever. Again, better than The Godfather. It's just so fucking good. I find it interesting because in the end, it is the most horrific adaptation of Heart of Darkness. It earns that line, the horror. The horror. In fact, in the scene where Martin Sheen's character is killing Kurtz, and it doesn't show the impact of his machete, but it cuts between that scene and the followers of Kurtz sacrificing a bull brutally. It literally made my fucking stomach churn. It's disgusting and horrific and extremely effective. And the whole film is a fucking dream. Like, it feels like a goddamn nightmare sequence where everything's just spiraling out of control and everyone's their own fucking ideals, and it's got great fucking actors just before their prime. It's beautiful. I remember I was watching a Patrick Willems video, and he said, if Apocalypse Now is sitting on your waiting list, just go watch it now. And it was funny because it spoke to me directly, because I had bought the movie like a few months prior and just kind of sat on it, and I'm like, it's a long-ass movie. I know I'm going to watch it someday, but it seems like a big commitment, and I don't want to quite take that step. And then I watched that video, and he did that call to action, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Now's the time. And I did, and it just awakened something in me. I was so impressed with this, and I was so impressed with it as an adaptation that I was just like, oh, I need to fucking talk about this, because I remember last year I watched Ad Astra, and I was so fucking pissed at it. I was like, it's so obviously an adaptation of Heart of Darkness, but it so obviously just misses the fucking point and wastes all of its potential. And then I watched Apocalypse Now, and I was like, fuck, I need to revisit all of these. I need to talk about how this is the ultimate culmination of Heart of Darkness. And so that's what inspired this particular video. And you should go watch it. You should consume all of these, except Ad Astra. So you should consume Spec Ops and Apocalypse Now, because great shit. Really fucking love them, and I think you would too. And if you haven't read it in a while, you should read Heart of Darkness. It still kind of holds up. My mom had never read it, so she's actually borrowing it from me now, or I'd hold up the fucking book. But anyway, that's my opinion on these adaptations of Heart of Darkness. If you have any comments, any criticisms, anything you want to offer up in this conversation, go ahead and comment it down below. You can also always find me on Twitter and Instagram at its_just_church, or you can email me at churchonmondaypod@gmail.com. I know I skipped last week, but really I was in a fucking funk with this whole isolation thing, and I'm still waiting to hear back on my test. We'll see how it goes. I'll still try to get these out weekly, but as soon as I get back to work, I'm gonna be fucking slammed, so it may be another 2 weeks before the next Church on Monday, but I'm still coming out with music, so if you are interested in that, just turn notifications on, subscribe, like this video if you want, and as always, love ya. Bye. No tears, don't fuck with more yet. Take what you can get. You're not my girlfriend.